My mother expected me to pay her bills, since she sacrificed for me. When I refused, she cried to my siblings and turned them against me. She sobbed and said, "You're heartless." I replied, "Emotional blackmail won't pay your debts, and neither will I." I, 43 male, and the oldest of 4 kids. Grew up in the suburbs outside of Chicago. My mother, Letitia, 60, was a single mom. My dad left when I was 6 and never looked back. No cards, no calls, no support. Just gone. It was me and her against the world. That's what she always told me. I was her rock, her little man, her reason to keep going. It sounds sweet when you're a kid, but when you grow up, you start to realize that those words come with strings. Heavy, guilt-soaked strings. She worked hard, no doubt. 2 jobs at one point. Cleaned houses during the day, cashier at a grocery store at night. We didn't have much. Some months we didn't have heat. I got used to wearing 2 pairs of socks to bed. I wasn't angry. I just assumed that was normal. She always reminded me how much she gave up. I didn't date because of you. I didn't buy new clothes for 10 years. I skipped meals so you could eat. I could have had a better life. I believed it. I carried it. I wore it like a jacket I couldn't take off. And when I finally got a decent job in IT, I thought, now I can take care of her. Now I can give her the life she deserves. At first, it felt good. I paid her rent when she fell behind. I bought her a new car when her old one died. I even paid off some medical bills she'd let pile up. She cried and thanked me and said I was the only one who ever cared. That I was a good son. That I was different from my siblings. That I had a heart. And I held on to that. I told myself I was doing the right thing. But over time, the emergencies didn't stop. They got more frequent. More expensive. More urgent. Rent is late again. Can you cover it? The electric's getting shut off. Please. I need groceries. I'm starving. I maxed out my card. Just help this once. I don't have gas money to get to work. It never ended. And I always said yes. I always wired money. No questions. Even when I didn't have it. Even when I was putting it on my credit cards. This went on for years. At least 7 years straight. She never asked my siblings. Just me. I was the responsible one. The firstborn. The one who owed her the most. My half-brother Eric, 38M, is barely hanging on himself. Twin sisters Dana and Roxy, 32F, both live in different states, doing their own thing. Mom says they're too selfish to help. But she didn't ask them, really. She made me her emotional dumping ground and ATM. It all finally came to a head last year. I was getting married. My fiancé and I were closing on a townhome. We were budgeting every dollar. Watching our spending. Planning for the future. And right in the middle of all that, Mom calls me. Same routine. I need $1,250 by Friday. I'm behind on rent again. She didn't even say, hello? No small talk. No how are you? Just the amount. Just the demand. Like I was payroll. And for the first time, I paused. I didn't say yes. I said, Mom, I can't do this anymore. She went quiet. You mean you won't? No. I can't. I have bills. I have a wedding coming up. I've got a mortgage starting in 2 weeks. You're leaving me to be homeless. After everything I gave up for you. You're not my responsibility anymore. And then she said it. You're heartless. I had to walk out of the office and sit in my car because I was shaking. Angry. Sad. Guilty. But also, tired. I told her. Emotional blackmail won't pay your debts, and neither will I. She hung up. No goodbye. No argument. Just gone. And I knew exactly what she was going to do next. Within 24 hours, my phone blew up. Eric, why won't you help Mom? She says you turned your back on her. Dana, I can't believe you're doing this. She's crying. Roxy, wow. Cold. They were parroting her word for word. I didn't respond right away. I sat with it. And then I made a choice. I opened up my banking app. My emails. My PayPal and Venmo histories. I pulled every receipt. Every wire transfer. Every autopay setup. I made a spreadsheet. Labeled and dated. 7 years. Every emergency. Every favor. $73,842.19. That's what I had paid for her over the years. I created a PDF. Sent it in a group text with all my siblings. Subject. Receipts. All I wrote was, I've been carrying this alone for years. I love Mom. But this isn't love anymore, it's obligation. If you think she needs help, step up. But I'm done being the scapegoat. Eric didn't reply. Dana said, This doesn't change anything. Roxy said, You're bitter. I left it alone. I didn't argue. I was done defending myself. Then something funny happened. A month later, I got a message from Eric. He apologized. Said he didn't know the extent. That she told him I refused to help her even once. Turns out, she'd been spinning the same story to each of us, that none of the others would help her. That she had no one. That we'd all abandoned her. She was playing us against each other like pieces on a chessboard. But I was the one she kept in check the longest. With me out, she turned to the others. First, she asked Eric. He paid 1 month of rent. She came back the next month. He blocked her. Then Dana. Same deal. 1 bill. Then ghosted. Roxy helped once. Then said, Never again. And now? She's out of lifelines. She tried contacting my fiancée behind my back. Told her I was being manipulated. That I was ungrateful. That she should think twice about marrying a man who abandons his mother. Nora, bless her soul, responded, Your son isn't heartless. He just finally grew a spine. You should be proud. Mom tried calling my workplace. Left a voicemail with HR saying I was mentally unstable. HR called me, confused as hell. I told them everything. Thankfully, they understood. I even played the voicemail. It was unhinged. Then she showed up at my aunt's Christmas party in a fur coat, the one she told Eric she had to pawn. She stood up in front of the family mid-dinner and started crying. Loudly. Said I was a cold, ungrateful son. That I had left her to suffer. That she had nothing because of me. And I just sat there. Quiet. Then I got up. Pulled out my phone. Opened the PDF. I handed it to my uncle. This is what I've paid. Rent. Groceries. Gas. Car repairs. Clothes. Medicine. Over $73,000. Silence. You could hear the silverware clink. She looked at me like she didn't know me. And I looked back like I finally knew her. After that Christmas dinner blow up, I went low contact. Not no contact, just low. I didn't block her, but I stopped replying. No texts, no calls. If she sent something dramatic, I left it on read. I needed space. But Mom doesn't do space. She takes silence as a threat. So she did what she's always done when she loses control. She escalated. About a week into January, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Listened later. It was a social worker. She said she was calling from a local community outreach program. My mom had been referred as at risk for homelessness and had listed me as her primary emergency contact and financial provider. I stared at my phone for a full minute. I called the social worker back. Calmly explained that I was not responsible for Letitia. That I hadn't lived with her in over 2 decades. That I had, in fact, financially supported her for the last several years but had to stop due to personal circumstances. The woman was polite but firm. She stated that you are her only child willing to help. She's not working full-time. She's behind on her rent again. Her health is declining. She's facing eviction. And then she said, Is there any financial support you can commit to monthly? I almost laughed. But it wasn't funny. I said no. That she's capable of working. That she spends irresponsibly. That I was no longer involved. The worker asked if I'd be willing to attend a family mediation meeting. I said I'd think about it. I didn't plan to go. 2 days later, I get a letter in the mail. A real paper letter. Certified. From a law office. My hands shook as I opened it. It was a petition. Letitia had filed a small claims suit against me for unpaid verbal loans and moral obligation support, totaling $21,000. I sat down on the floor. She was suing me. My own mother. For money I didn't owe. For not giving her more. The document was ridiculous. It had handwritten notes in the margins. Her handwriting. She had itemized made-up loans, dates, fake dollar amounts, claiming she had supported me through college, which was 100% false. I paid for college myself with loans and part-time jobs. She claimed she had loaned me money for my first car. Lie. That car was bought off Craigslist with my own money, and I still remember sweating through the test drive because the AC didn't work. She even claimed I owed her for childhood rent. I showed the letter to Nora. She read it, put it down, and said, "We need a lawyer." So we got one. Not cheap, but worth every cent. He read the claim, shook his head, and said, "This is going to get thrown out fast, but we'll file a formal response anyway." We did. Court date was set 6 weeks out. I didn't tell anyone except Nora and my therapist. But, and here's where the twist comes, Mom did. She told my siblings. Not that she sued me, no. She told them that I was suing her. She flipped it. Eric texted me. "What the hell? You're taking Mom to court?" Dana left a voicemail. "You're out of control. Suing your own mother? Have you lost it?" Roxy. "You're dead to me." I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. I was done explaining the obvious. But one thing started eating at me. How did she know exactly how much I made? She put my salary in the lawsuit. Down to the dollar. I never told her. She doesn't have access to my bank accounts. That's when it hit me. My old tax returns. She used to file my taxes for me when I was in college and right after, back when I didn't know any better. She probably kept copies. I went digging through my own files and saw an old shared Google Drive folder from years ago. Sure enough, she had uploaded PDF scans of my tax returns from 2014 to 2019. With income, account numbers, everything. She'd been sitting on them. Gathering data? Probably planning this for years. That night, I took a long walk. Just kept moving. Angry. Embarrassed. Ashamed. Not just because of her, but because I had let it happen. I let this woman weaponize every favor. Every act of kindness. I thought I was being a good son. Turns out, I was being set up. The lawsuit was a mess. Court date was still a month away. I had to see her face. In person. In front of a judge. I didn't know how I'd handle it. But the worst part. 2 weeks after that letter, I got another surprise. An envelope. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter from Letitia. Front and back. Cursive. Smelled like her perfume. Probably sprayed on purpose. The first half was pure guilt. "You were my light, my heart, my only son. I sacrificed everything for you. You were never supposed to leave me like this." Then came the blame. "You let your future wife ruin our bond. You let money poison your soul. You think therapy will save you? You're just broken. Like your father." Then the threat. "If you don't drop the case, I'll tell everyone what you did. What you really are. You don't want me to open that door." I had no idea what door she meant. Probably nothing. Or maybe everything. At that point, I didn't care. I scanned the letter. Emailed it to my lawyer. He replied one word. Leverage. The day after I gave my lawyer the letter, I got another call from an unknown number. It was the property manager at Letitia's apartment complex. She was trying to use me as a co-signer. Without telling me. Apparently, she had filled out a rental assistance application and listed me as a financial guarantor, forging my signature on part of the form. It triggered a fraud check. The property manager, a guy named Luis, said he was required to notify me since my name and old phone number were listed. My hands went cold. He emailed me the form. There it was. My full name, my current address, and a signature that kind of looked like mine, but not close enough. I was shaking with fury. I called my lawyer again. He told me to report it. So I filed a police report. It felt surreal. My own mother. Forging my name to lock me into a lease that she already couldn't afford. At this point, I was exhausted. Every time I thought it was over, she found a new way to try and pull me back in. And the thing is, this wasn't even about money anymore. It was about control. Then the next twist came. A week before our court date, I got a message from my old boss at a job I hadn't worked in 5 years. Random. He said someone had contacted him asking for a character reference for me. Said it was urgent. He thought maybe I was applying for something. I told him no, I wasn't job hunting. He forwarded me the email. It was from a new Gmail account. The name was Tina Morales. But the wording? It was Letitia. I knew it. She always said, "God bless abundantly," at the end of every message, like she was writing a church bulletin. She was pretending to be a third party. Trying to dig into my past. Probably hoping to find something she could use against me in court. Or in front of my siblings. Or just to feel like she had something over me. I felt sick. It was turning into a full-blown obsession. Meanwhile, Eric had started to message me again. Quietly. Said he was beginning to see the cracks. Letitia had asked him to forge documents too, She wanted him to say in writing that I'd borrowed thousands from her in 2016. He refused. She told him he was dead to her. Now he was starting to believe everything I had warned him about. Dana, though, was still on her side. Hardcore. Posting vague Facebook rants about ungrateful children, and how parents are thrown away like garbage. Roxy was silent. But I noticed she unfollowed me on everything. I got tired of hiding the truth. So I made a post. Not dramatic. Not vengeful. Just factual. I uploaded screenshots, with names blurred, of the court summons, the fake rental paperwork with my forged signature, and the email Tina had sent to my former boss. I wrote, "Sometimes you do everything you can to be a good son. You give money, time, patience. But when that's not enough, and you finally say no, they come for your name, your job, your peace. I won't be silent. And I won't be shamed." It didn't go viral or anything. But people saw it. Family. Friends. The silence after that was loud. 2 aunts reached out. Both said they had been manipulated by Letitia in the past. One had loaned her money. Just until next week. That was never returned, and the other said Letitia had once tried to take out a credit card in her name. She was burning every bridge. Fast. Court day arrived. I wore a plain gray suit. No tie. Just clean and serious. Letitia showed up in a long black coat and sunglasses, like she was attending a funeral. She didn't look at me once. The judge looked annoyed from the start. The claim was flimsy, unsupported, emotionally charged. My lawyer barely had to say a word. He just laid out the evidence. No loan documents, no proof of verbal agreements, nothing on record that supported her story. She tried to speak. Started crying. Said I was spiteful. That I was trying to erase her from my life. The judge cut her off. Said this wasn't family therapy, this was small claims. And she had no case. Dismissed. Just like that. She stormed out. Didn't even wait for the elevator. Just vanished. After that, I expected her to lay low. Instead, she went nuclear. The next morning, a package showed up at my door. No return address. Just my name in big block letters. Inside? A photo album. My baby photos. Pictures of me with Santa, my 5th birthday party, my old report cards. Doodles I made in 3rd grade. It looked sweet. For a second. But tucked between the pages were notes. Handwritten ones? On one, taped to a toddler picture of me in a Batman cape, she wrote, "You used to love me." On another, a report card from 1994. "You were proud of me once." And on the last page, a picture of her holding me in the hospital. "I should have left you with your father." I dropped the album. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there. Staring. This wasn't just emotional blackmail anymore. It was warfare. Nora wanted me to report it. To call the police. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I picked it up, packed it back in the box, and placed it on a shelf in the closet. I don't know why. Maybe to remind myself it happened. Maybe because part of me still didn't want to believe she'd sunk this low. But here's the part that really shook me. 3 days later, my HR department called me again. They had received an anonymous tip, claiming I was abusing company resources and had a documented history of instability. They were required to look into it. My hands started sweating. It was a fake report. Baseless. But it could have messed up my entire career. Thankfully, I had already told HR about the situation with my mom. I showed them the fake email. The court docs. The police report. Everything. They closed the investigation within hours. But the damage was done. My reputation was dented. People in the office started whispering. Asking weird questions. I could feel it. All because I told my mom. No. All because I stopped paying. All because I dared to live my life without her hand in my wallet. She wasn't trying to get help anymore. She was trying to destroy me. About 2 weeks after the fake HR complaint, everything boiled over. It happened at my cousin's engagement party in Berwyn. Nora and I debated not going, but my cousin Jenny is like a sister to me, and I didn't want Letitia to take one more thing from me. So we went. Quietly. Sat near the back. Tried to stay low. But Letitia was there. Of course she was. She made a beeline toward us the second we walked in. Hair done, heels clicking, fake smiling like a politician. She didn't even blink at Nora, just leaned over me and said, "You didn't return the photo album." I stared at her. "You didn't ask for it back." She looked around like she expected applause. like the room was hers. "You're making a scene," she said under her breath, even though I hadn't moved. "You always want people to think I'm crazy." Then she said it louder on purpose. "I gave my life for you. And you treat me like trash." People turned. I stood up. Calm, but my chest felt like it was going to explode. "You forged my name on a lease, you lied in court, you made fake HR complaints. And now you're here, pretending to be the victim again?" She blinked. Acted shocked. Classic Letitia. "I never," she started, but I didn't let her finish. "You told me I owed you for being born." The room went dead silent. Eric was standing near the bar. He stepped closer. Dana froze by the appetizers. Roxy, she was near the kitchen, I didn't even know she was there, put down her drink and slowly walked toward us. I kept going. "You told me I was your sacrifice. That I ruined your life. And every time I did something good, you took credit. Every time I failed, you blamed me." She said. "I'm your mother. You used that word like a weapon." Then she snapped. "You think you're better than me now? Because you have a house? A wife? A therapist? I had nothing. I still have nothing. And I'm still your mother." She was shaking. Eric walked up next to me. He said, "You lied to me too. You told me he abandoned you. You never said he gave you thousands. You never said you sued him." Letitia looked panicked. Her eyes bounced around like she was trying to find an escape. Dana stepped in next. "You asked me to lie in court? You said it was just to make him pay his fair share. You never said you forged anything." Then Roxy. Calm voice. "I had to block your number, Mom. I don't feel safe with you anymore." Letitia suddenly looked small. Like someone had popped her balloon. And then she said something I wasn't expecting. "If I don't control things, I lose everything. Do you understand? Everything falls apart without me." She wasn't crying, not yet, but her voice cracked. "I had 4 kids, no husband, no savings, no help. I had to make people feel guilty. I had to manipulate. That's how I survived." She looked at me like I was supposed to agree. Like that made it okay. I said nothing. Everyone just stood there. Then she said, soft and broken, "I never wanted to be like this." And for the first time, I actually believed her. But that didn't make it better. The silence after that was heavy. Nobody clapped. Nobody hugged her. Eric quietly said, "I think you need help." Dana whispered, "You need therapy, Mom." Letitia just nodded. Then turned, grabbed her coat, and walked out. Nobody followed her. After she left, everyone seemed to exhale at once. Nora squeezed my hand. My Aunt Jenny, the one who hosted, came up and said, "You didn't ruin anything. This was a long time coming." We stayed for an hour more, but I barely remember it. I just kept seeing her face. The way her mouth trembled when she realized no one was backing her up. That she had finally run out of excuses. A week later, she sent a single text. "I'm sorry. I don't know who I am without the guilt." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply. Not yet. The photo album is still in my closet. The court documents are filed away. The Google Drive folder has been deleted. I changed my passwords. I set new boundaries. I've got a new phone number now. So does Nora. We don't check the old ones much. Eric and I talk regularly now. We're rebuilding something real. Dana apologized. She said she was in denial. That she didn't want to believe our mother could be manipulative. Roxy and I grabbed coffee last week. It was quiet, but warm. Letitia hasn't tried anything else since. No fake emails. No calls to HR. No letters. Maybe it's over. Maybe it's just a pause. But here's what I know now: love is not supposed to feel like a debt. Family is not about who sacrificed more, it's about who can look each other in the eye and tell the truth. I spent most of my life trying to earn something that was supposed to be freely given. I let guilt write my story. I let obligation ruin my peace. And when I finally said no, when I finally stood still, the whole structure fell apart. It was never love. It was control dressed up in sentiment. I don't know if she'll ever change. I don't know if I'll ever want to reconnect. But I do know this: I am not broken. I am not heartless. I am not hers to use anymore. And for the first time in my life, I feel free.